Hey there, welcome to Jet Setting with Jackie. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Jackie. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back to check out my channel. In this week's video, I will be talking about what it was like to open a bank account in Jamaica. If this is of interest to you, stick around for all the details. I had my first bank account here in Jamaica probably back in the early 90s. I remember going to Brownstown with my grandmother and opening the bank account. I was a child back then, but I still remember going to the bank and conducting transactions. Fast forward 20 years later to about 2010, I started coming back to Jamaica a lot, and I decided I wanted to open a bank account. And that was the first experience I had with what I like to call an act of God. When anyone asks me how to go about opening a bank account in Jamaica, that is usually the first thing that come out of my mouth. It's an act of God. The process to open a bank account in Jamaica is so cumbersome that it almost makes you not want to go through the process. I'm not sure if that's the end goal or what, but it's not a pleasant experience, and I'll tell you why. After about 3 or 4 trips back to Jamaica, several requests for documentation, my uncle having to go into the physical branch to sign papers and pick up documents for me, I was finally able to open my first bank account here. I kind of got ambitious and I opened a second account at Scotiabank. So my first account was with NCB, and then my second bank account I opened with Scotia. I used those accounts for probably about 2 years, and then my trips to Jamaica became less frequent. So I no longer use the accounts as often as I used to, and they ended up becoming dormant.
10 years later.
I found all my bank documents, my bank book, my debit cards, anything that was related to my accounts. I called both NCB Bank and I also called Scotiabank. NCB Bank told me that my account was dormant, and they gave me some steps as to how to go about reactivating my account. Now, Scotiabank, they could not even find my account. I had a debit card, I gave them the debit card number. I had a bank book, gave them the account number, my transactions that I've done in the book, and they could not find anything. Their advice to me was, the next time you're in Jamaica, go into the branch and have them look it up. NCB did tell me all the things that I needed to reactivate my account, which ultimately was everything you would need to open a new account, which to me was a little bit crazy considering I'd already been through the entire process. I had an account that is still on your system. The account's just dormant. All I should need to do is bring in identification to reactivate the account. However, that was not the process. So I figured when I get to Jamaica, I'll go into a branch and get it all figured out. On July 26th, I made my first attempt at trying to go to the bank. And I will preface this by saying that this was during COVID, where the lines to get into the banks were unreal. Anywhere. The lines were always long, regardless of where you were going, whether it was supermarket, bank, it didn't matter. I'm going to insert a video right after this to show what that day was like. The bank is a bust. I got there something after 10, closer to 11. A number 60 for customer service, only to find out the customer service number is at like 35. I'm 60. The bank closed at 2:30. Now it's 11:30. What's that, 3 hours? The bank closed in 3 hours. And at the rate that they're going, I'm not going to get seen today. Try to look at Scotiabank. Oh, by the way, that was NCB. Look at Scotia line. Their line wasn't any better. After that experience, I did not attempt to go back to the banks until December 20th, which was about 5 months later. I took the day off and I decided I didn't care what I had to do. I was going to get a bank account open that day. I had a game plan in mind. I wanted to get there super early, go to NCB first, get a ticket, then leave from NCB, go to Scotiabank, get a ticket from there. That way I could go in between both banks to try to leave Ocho Reyes with a bank account that day. I spoke with the security guard and explained why I was there. That way I could get, whether it was a customer service, teller, or whatever other service I needed, I wanted to make sure I got the right ticket. So I explained my situation to him and he told me I didn't need a ticket. I just needed to come in and speak to, I guess, one of the service reps. Knowing that I didn't need a ticket, I left the line at NCB and went over to Scotiabank. I waited in that line until their security guard started out giving out tickets. I got my ticket and I was probably number 1 or 2, so I knew I was going to get serviced as soon as they opened. So I just waited at Scotia before I went back to NCB. When Scotiabank opened, I went in and I sat down and started explaining my situation to the rep. Gave her my debit card, bank book, and everything. She looked in the system and told me basically my account did not exist anymore, which sounds crazy that you can open a bank account, put your money in there, leave the country, and never see your money ever again. Granted, I don't think there was a lot of money in that account to begin with, but it's just the fact that no one knows where my account went. It just disappeared. We started working on opening a new account. Since they couldn't find my old one, it made sense to try to start a new one. So I knew before coming to the bank, because I'm the type of person that I want to be extra prepared just because I've been through this process before and I know how Jamaica is. Before I left my house that morning, I packed my laptop, I packed my birth certificate, TRN number, driver's license, my first unborn child. I packed everything with me just in case they would ask for it. I would have been prepared. Everything was going so well until we got to the part where she needed to verify my employment. Again, like I said, I brought my laptop with me, so I came prepared with my pay stubs, my bank statements to show the deposits going into my account from my job. I didn't know what else they would need. She explained to me that they needed a letter stating that I worked there. I believe I even provided her with my offer letter, and that still wasn't good enough. I did not have a reference letter from my job. I reached out to someone in HR to try to send me one. When it was taking a little while, I decided, maybe it's best to go over to NCB, figure out what's going on over there, and then try back Scotia later. So I left Scotiabank and walked back over to NCB to get back into that queue. I went to the service center at NCB and I explained to the lady what I needed to have done to my account. She told me, have a seat, she'll look into it as soon as she got a chance. While I was waiting there, I got a response back from my HR department. They were able to provide me with the job letter that I needed and also an 800 number to verify my employment. So I sent that information back to the service lady at Scotiabank so that she could start working on my paperwork again, or let me know if she's able to move forward with the process. The lady from NCB came back out and her and I started discussing my account. She told me I needed to go to the account section, which means that I was going to have to wait even longer. Because I came in without a ticket, I had to get a ticket in order to see someone on the account side. So the security guard gave me a ticket and it was probably about an hour or so wait before I would even be seen. So I figured, why not take this time to go back to Scotiabank now that I had my job letter to go back and meet with the lady. So I went back to Scotiabank and waited in line, sat down, and spoke to the rep that I was speaking with earlier. She told me my letter was not good enough. And the phone number that she called, the 800 number, it doesn't work when you call from Jamaica. So I offered her, well, why don't you use my cell phone? Since my cell phone is a US number, maybe that will work. She told me no, she couldn't do that. After all that I did to get my account open with Scotia, she would not proceed with the process because she could not call the number. So regardless of me having bank statements to show my pay hitting my account twice a month, my pay stubs that shows where I work, my offer letter that shows when I got my offer, how long I've been working there, and even the letter from my job saying that I'm an employee, this is my salary, that was still not good enough. So she did not open my account. So I left Scotiabank empty-handed that day. My only hope left was to get my NCB account reactivated. I walked back over to NCB Bank and waited for my number to be called. I presented all the documents to the rep at NCB, which included my pay stubs, my job reference letter, my bank statements, my JPS bill, my driver's license, my 2 passport size pictures, 2 references, names and phone numbers. And even with all that, I almost walked out of NCB because I did not have a reference that was a current bank account holder in good standing. Shout out to my friend that was sitting next to me that day at NCB. You are the real MVP. That is the only reason why I was able to walk out of there that day with an active account. So thank you so much for helping me out. I really appreciated it. I've been in the financial industry for almost 19 years. I understand the rules and I understand why they do some of the things they do, especially as someone that works in compliance. However, the extent that they take it is unreal. It's ridiculous. There's so much more that they could be doing to make this process less complicated and less crazy. I'm not sure if it's mainly because of the banking partners that they work with outside of Jamaica or what sorts of regulations that they're specifically under, but something has to give. It should not take me that much to reactivate a bank account that I already own. I opened it. You've had passports, pictures of me. You've identified me. I've provided birth certificate, driver's license, passport. You know who I am. With bank accounts, the main thing that the bank needs to know is who the customer is. Once you are able to identify your customer, understand their financials, there isn't that big of a hurdle else for the customer to get over. So for everyone that's ever asked me what it's like to open a bank account in Jamaica, I hope that this helped you understand. There are 8 main banks here in Jamaica, but I've only had experience with 2 of them, NCB and Scotia. So my experience is not covering all of the banks. There are several others that you can try, and hopefully your experience will be less crazy. If it is, please share that information, and maybe I need to go and be a customer at another one of those banks. I will be adding each of the different banks that are located here and show you what is required to open an account with each of them. They all have similar rules, but some of them expect certain things that others may not. But I want you to keep in mind that in Jamaica, just because the papers say that this is what is required doesn't mean that when you get there, they're not going to ask you for something else. Be prepared to provide them with documentation that is not on that list. So those lists are not all inclusive. Something else to keep in mind is that it may take you several attempts to get your bank account open. Some of the things that you will need, which most places don't really ask for, is you will need to take passport size pictures and have it signed by a JP. That's not normally something that I've ever had to really provide as identification, but that is something that's required here. One of your reference, someone does have to have an account that is not dormant, that is active and current and in good standing. I don't know if that's just an NCB practice or if that is something that is across all the other banks as well. You will need to prove where your income is coming from. They want to know what your source of funds is, which is typical for any financial institution that you open an account with. And finally, expect to spend a good amount of time at the bank. Like I said, I took the day off because I know it could be hours to get this process done. Just make sure that you have enough time set aside for you to get your bank account going. Hopefully all of this has helped you understand what the process is like to open a bank account in Jamaica. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video to be helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you enjoy content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know when I've posted my next video, go ahead and hit that notification bell. That way you'll know when I've posted. Until next time, bye.